So once VMware is installed, on Windows machine, you should see an icon that says VMware Server Homepage. It just opens up your default browser. On my machine, it'll be Firefox. So now for Firefox to open up, and for those of you that have seen the beta version, they have improved the interface a lot. So you can actually see what you're doing now. Because my own personal experience, I was not all that impressed with it at first. But now I have to say it is very user friendly. So hopefully this thing will load up. Okay, I'm gonna tell it, okay, I know the wireless isn't working, but you should still be able to load this up. Yeah, after waiting forever, I can finally type in my username. Oops. But I had problems before I even get started by typing the wrong username. Can't wait for it to connect. And you should get the interface shortly. And of course, see the interface is very similar to VirtualBox, where you get a lot more options, especially networking wise. So you see you have virtual machines right here on the inventory. So you have your DSL live link. So I primarily use this as a client-based machine, because all I'm doing is open up the browser to see stuff pointing from a server, which of course should be my virtual machine. But I should have called this virtual server because it's actually a package server which actually has Ubuntu Linux installed in there, 32-bit edition. And pretty much gives you all information, goes along with it. You configure your processor, memory, hard drive space, network configuration, and everything else. If I go to edit for this, gives me the option using bridge, host only and NAT. I use NAT because everything's automatically set up for me in VMware for that. They actually talk to each other, so why not use NAT since the feature's already built in? And it's no, so I don't have to worry about having my own separate router and doing everything hard coded like I do a VirtualBox, unfortunately, but VMware don't have to do that, which is definitely a plus for this. So you can set your memory, everything else. Of course, you get just type it in, keep going. Also add your CD-Rom drive device. Either use the host media, which is on your machine, or a client, and then even from here go to connection type. Okay, do you want a physical CD-ROM drive on your machine or actual ISO file that you have loaded on there? And most of the time you use this selected when you're doing that installation, but afterwards you use the physical drive. Unless you're in something like DSL where it's actually a live distribution where you always go up the CD-ROM drive. So of course with DSL Linux, when I go to edit, it's going to point to the ISO image for DSL Linux and it will stay there. Okay, back in the open office. And of course, you definitely want to make sure that you have enough for the OS installation as well as additional applications and files you want to use later on. We actually select your the hard drive size. And if you're using FAT32 partition or something that actually limits you to how big you make your partition, you actually have it set up to actually split virtual hard drives into multiple 2 gig files. So you can tell it's a 6 gig partition, but it'll split up into like 3 individual 2 gig portions. That way, a FAT32 hard drive can actually read all that stuff in there. So I thought was a really, really nice feature. So that makes it a lot more portable. So let's say they're ready to bring VMware Server, or if you're using VMware Fusion on a Mac, unplug the hard drive from one machine, plug into something else. You're using a thumb drive, copy the VDKs over, up and running. So they pretty much have thought about everything, especially as far as backing up your data is concerned, which is a very good plus for them. And of course, after the guest machine has been created, you will need to actually configure to use the resources of your local machines. And this includes sharing the memory and USB devices as well as the number of CPUs that you want VMware to use. And of course, you run a multi-core, make sure it's able to see all the cores in your machine. If you want to see all the cores, just one core if you want to see one core. And likewise, if you need to connect to the internet or any other type of network, you also need to configure the VMware network settings as well, which has already been done to work within the little intranet that's on my laptop itself. And of course, it's very important to remember that since you are emulating a totally different, different computer, that standard network drivers that your OS normally all it takes may not work. And you can either bridge connection or use the NAT to actually share a connection with the client machine. And the latter is normally recommended for general use because of the reliability and easy to use. And with NAT, you simply share an IP address of the host machine, which likewise requires no additional configurations through VMware or the host operating system. And actually, VMware actually takes the IP address of your host machine and splits into different subnets to every individual VM on your machine. So each subnet has its own IP address that's actually used within your box anyway. And of course, this means that logically everything will work the same as well on a dedicated physical server. And of course, the host OS, as opposed to or along with the firewall, should determine which port on which the virtual machine can actually be used on which network service. And of course, for example, you open up port 40 for web, port 21 for FTP, and of course, port 22 for SSH through the host itself. And definitely, one thing I definitely love about this is like the VMware server actually automatically sets up a subnet, like I just said, for you to use, and setting in the NICs of the VMs to NAT actually allows users to set the host machine as a ROM device. And once this is done, the VM guests can actually talk to each other as with the host operating system, and actually find and configure some of this information you actually use to manage virtual network tool that comes with VMware. And if you're using a Linux or a Unix-based operating system, once you're in your virtual machine, you type in ifconfig, it's your IP address. And likewise, in Windows, you would type in ipconfig. Sure.
VMware fit into that? What layer? Yeah, there it is. What layer does it?
It's not really that much with the OSI model. It's just, you're just like virtualizing the whole network itself, so basically the whole thing. Because you're just simulating like one network device with another network device. So you have your, basically, the virtualization actually takes place of your routing device, your server, client, everything all in one machine, all in one package. So you don't really have to worry that much about the OSI model with that. So everything is packaged together.
It's kind of following the OSI, so it's not really changing anything.
Yeah, because it's like you say, why do they call it virtual?
Well, in a sense, it doesn't exist.
Yes.
That server, there's no physical hardware.
Right. It's all software.
Right now he says 2 operating systems, but normally that's 2 computers.
Right.
But in the virtual world, that's just one machine running multiple operating systems. And like Cisco is using virtual software too for a lot of smaller scale equipment now.
Yep.